it looks like we might actually be getting an A7S II replacement sometime quite soon. I mean, admittedly, an A7S II replacement has been speculated, rumoured, talked about for about as long as I can remember. Now, some people did suggest the A7S is more of a low light, good for video sort of camera, and maybe because the A7 III and other cameras are now so good at that sort of stuff, that maybe Sony were ditching the A7S series. I don't think that was ever a realistic outcome, because Sony had said themselves quite a while ago in an interview that they wanted the A7S II replacement to exceed everyone's expectations. The problem with that sentiment is that you're not the only player in the market, and the goalposts are constantly moving. So, 12 months ago, people's expectations were 4K 60p would be a really good thing to have. Nowadays, a high-end camera without 4K 60 gets laughed at. Now it's, where's the 6K? Where's the 10-bit 422? Where is the RAW recording? And everything's constantly changing. So originally, I think the A7S II replacement was penciled to be released back in October of some year or other, and then it got postponed. Right around the time that Panasonic were bringing out the S1H. So possibly Sony had an A7S geared to go with 4K 60 in 10-bit 422, and then Panasonic brings out the S1H with 6K recording and kind of shits all over that one. So Sony have to go back to the drawing board, and then, oh, maybe we've got a new one ready to go, and oh crap, here comes the Canon R5. Back to the drawing board again. Now, it looks like there might actually be an actual camera released maybe this year. Admittedly, there was talk back pre-COVID that the replacement would be coming middle of this year, and I was skeptical. And then coronavirus hit, and I was even more skeptical. But Sony's CEO, or one of the CEOs, has actually said, outright confirmed, the A7S II replacement is on the way. And according to Sony Alpha Rumors, they actually have some specifications which are confirmed, apparently. They say they're not allowed to disclose where the evidence is that these specs are actually true-to-life specs and not speculation. But obviously, we should probably still take all this with a pinch of salt, because until Sony actually make an official announcement confirming these specs, it's all speculation. I mean, I could say I have evidence that the A7S II replacement is going to shoot 8K RAW in 444, but I can't show you the evidence, so you'll just have to take my word for it. But the specs that Sony Alpha Rumors give, that they say are confirmed specs that aren't really confirmed specs because Sony haven't confirmed them themselves yet, are that it will have the highest resolution EVF of any mirrorless camera on the market at over 9 million dots, which I think by memory the A7 III has about a 2 million dot screen. The R4 has about 4 million dot, the R5 is about 5 million dots. So a 9 million dot screen, wow. I mean, that is impressive, but also kind of a bit lackluster if you think the S is generally more used by video shooters who may not actually use the EVF all that much. I generally don't shoot video using the EVF. I'm generally using a screen, or you tend to see the rigs with an external monitor. So, a high-resolution EVF will be impressive and will no doubt be a great feature to have, but it's probably something I would have preferred to have seen on, like, the R4. So there's that. They've also said that it's going to have passive cooling in order to prevent overheating. Except they then show a picture of the S1H, which seems to have active cooling. And in case you're wondering as to the difference between passive and active cooling, because there were a few people in the comment section that were confused by it, which is perfectly understandable, active cooling requires energy in order to cool the device, i.e. the use of a fan. Passive cooling doesn't require energy, it just naturally dissipates. So it's probably more something like you'll see on the Sigma FP, where it's got that kind of section of body with all the holes in. It's essentially trying to enlarge the surface area so there's more space for the heat to escape. Or they could stick a giant aluminium heatsink on the bottom of it. Who knows? We'll wait and see. Active cooling would generally cool things better. Oh no, my batteries ran out. Ugh. Oh god, I cannot wait to get my own studio. Not stuck in the corner of a conservatory. Have some space. And we're back. So active cooling generally works better. That's why your computer cases are full of fans to try and move the airflow around. But one, they take up additional energy, which in an enclosed camera is potentially going to reduce your battery life. And more importantly, they generate noise inside the camera, which is then going to scupper your videos a bit. So passive cooling, no energy consumption, no noise. Now, the passive cooling opens up a very big question and kind of ties into the other confirmed spec at the moment, which is UHS-2 SD card support. No word on configurations. You know, is it just going to be a single card slot like you found in the A7S II? Not likely. Is it going to be dual SD card slots, one UHS-1, one UHS-2 like you find in the A7 III? Not likely. Is it going to be dual UHS-2 like we find in the A7R4? That's a distinct possibility. A lot of people saying that they wanted to see like XQD or CF Express cards worked into the A7S II. That doesn't seem likely. I'm pretty sure Sony have almost abandoned XQD. It's only really Nikon that go with them. They seem pretty focused on SD cards. Now, there were a lot of people in the comment section slamming the use of UHS-2 SD cards, saying that, well, that's it, you know, the camera's not going to be able to handle high resolution or 10-bit 422 video, it's just going to be a complete failure. Except I'm pretty sure the Panasonic S1H has two UHS-2 SD card slots, and that can manage 6K, 10-bit 422, up to 400 megabits a second. So I suspect the A7S II replacement, I have to call it that because we've no idea whether it's going to be called the A7S III or the A7S IV or, you know, the A7. Shit, this has taken a damn sight longer than it should have done. But anyway, those are the confirmed specs. What are the unconfirmed specs? What else could we potentially see in this camera? Well, in terms of the video specifications, I've maintained for a while that I think it's going to do 6K recording. 6K appears to be that new benchmark where everyone's heading for. And it would make sense. I think with the increased resolution of the R4, there's now this huge gulf between 60 megapixels down to the 24 megapixels of the A7 III. So I think the A7 IV is going to see an increase in resolution to bring that gap up, probably somewhere around about 30 to 36 megapixels, which would then leave space for the A7S II replacement to be bumped up to 24 megapixels to allow it to shoot 6K recording. But I don't think we're just going to see it take the A7 III sensor. That would be ridiculous. I actually think we're going to see a shift to the quad Bayer sensors. But that would have to be a brand new sensor from the ground up. They can't just adapt the A7 III sensor to shoot that, which would also mean a brand new autofocus system as well. There's been a lot of patents released by Sony, designs for quad Bayer sensors. Would make sense that that would be something that we would see. It would certainly exceed everyone's expectations. So a 24 megapixel one of them would allow 6K recording. Now, could it handle 6K 422 10-bit? More than likely, yes. Could it do 4K 10-bit 422 120 frames a second? Arguably, yes. I think given Sony's stack sensor tech, which incidentally is something I think this will have, the read speeds of that would certainly be fast enough to read 4K at 120 frames a second. The processors within the Sony cameras, I think, will be more than sufficient to handle 4K at 120 frames a second. Hell, even UHS-2 SD cards would be fast enough to handle 4K at 120 frames a second, because that comes down more to the bitrate. And like I said, given that the Panasonic S1H can record up to 400 megabits a second quite happily on UHS-2 cards, Sony's current 4K 30 is 100 megabits a second max. So, in essence, they could do 4K at 120 frames a second at 400 megabits, would be more than easy enough to write to a UHS-2 card. Because let's not forget, the current Sony 4K in the A7 III and the A6000 series cameras is downsampled from 6K, which adds a huge amount more processing power to it. So in essence, they could skip that step, they could pixel bin the 4K, and that would definitely allow them the 120 frames a second. Might look a bit shit, but you can't have everything all at once, can you? I did see in the comment section that Casey, not surprisingly, wants a flippy screen, an A99 style. That would be something I would really like to see. Just a forward-facing screen of some variety would be really nice to see. An A99 would be brilliant to see back. Unfortunately, I doubt it's going to have either. But hey, if it can't have a front-facing screen, let's at the very least hope that the HDMI port stays active through any combination of settings. It's not like the A7 III, where it shuts off if you're trying to record 4K internal, because that's a bit of a ball ache, and the reason I've had to buy the A6400. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, guys, if you have any other questions or queries, put them down there as well. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.